Kailash Parbat is no ordinary mountain. It's not defined merely by altitude or terrain, but by its formidable aura, a spiritual energy so powerful that it has held the reverence of countless generations. To Buddhists, it's the home of Buddha Demchok, symbolizing supreme bliss. For Hindus, it's where Lord Shiva meditates in eternal stillness. The Jains believe that their first Tirthankara attained liberation here, and the ancient Bon religion marks it as the birthplace of all creation. Kailash is more than a mountain. It's a cosmic axis, the spiritual heart of Asia. No climber has ever stood on the summit of Kailash Parbat. While peaks of comparable height and difficulty are scaled regularly, something about Kailash resists conquest. Some say the mountain will simply not allow it, that its divine energies confound the most experienced climbers, and that strange, inexplicable phenomena dissuade those who dare approach too closely. I grew up on the sources of Kailash Parbat's waters. As I grew older, I became fascinated with the stories of those who had tried to climb Kailash. The earliest attempts were shrouded in mystery and met with misfortune. The first recorded attempt to climb Kailash was by a Tibetan Lama in the 11th century, who returned declaring it impossible. In 20th century, a few Western expeditions made the approach, intrigued by the enigma, but no one turned back, citing a sense of foreboding, unnatural weather changes, or equipment malfunctions. One of the more well-known stories involved Colonel Wilson, a British mountaineer in the early 1900s, who claimed to have left an overwhelming force urging him to abandon his climb. As he neared the mountain, weather patterns seemed to shift dramatically, and a wave of dread gripped him. Locals say that this spiritual guardian is none other than Lord Shiva himself, warning people to stay away from his sacred domain. A few years later, in the 1980s, Reinhold Messner, a legendary mountaineer who had conquered the world's tallest peaks, respected the sacredness of Kailash and refused to attempt it, declaring it untouchable and sacred. Even for the fiercest mountaineers, the mere thought of stepping on this revered peak is seen as sacrilege. Legends, of course, abound. They say that the peak of Kailash, the gods dance, creating a vortex that draws in spirits, both good and bad. Pilgrims claim to have seen the lights on the mountain, shimmering in impossible colors, or to have heard voices chanting in a language other than any spoken today. It is said that anyone who dares attempt the ascent finds themselves inexplicably ill, burdened by the weight of divine anger, or lost in a labyrinth of fog and strange visions. One particularly fascinating tale tells of Milarepa, an 11th century Tibetan saint who faced off with a Bon sorcerer in a supernatural race to the summit. Both ascended with powers racing upward. But just as Milarepa was about to touch the peak, he relented, out of respect, leaving the summit untouched. It is said that Kailash's true protectors are neither climbers nor armies, but the spirits of the mountain itself. Locals recount that if you approach too close, strange things begin to happen. Equipment mysteriously fails. The air thickens with the sense of foreboding, and the mountain appears to grow higher, with new cliffs and impossible paths emerging to deter intruders. Even the weather is said to shift unnaturally around Kailash, a calm day turning into a thunderous storm within moments of approaching the sacred slopes. Pilgrims describe Kailash as alive. They say the mountain itself breathes, and the air around it has a pulse, and that it resonates with the hum that you can feel rather than hear, a hum that fills you with awe and often fear. And for those who dare venture closer than the pilgrim routes allow, the mountain's energy is said to press down on them, making even the act of breathing a struggle. Unlike many holy places, the true reverence of Kailash lies not in reaching its peak, but in journeying around it. The pilgrims come from across Asia, enduring weeks of grueling travel to complete the sacred 52-kilometer circuit around Kailash, known as the Kora. This pilgrimage is believed to erase lifetimes of bad karma and, in some cases, lead to spiritual enlightenment. For a devout soul, a single circuit can cleanse a lifetime. For the truly faithful, completing 108 circuits around the mountain is considered a path to ultimate liberation. The journey is not easy. High altitude passes, freezing winds, and steep rocky paths test even the fittest of pilgrims. But it is the mountain's intense spiritual pull that truly tests them. Every step feels laden with the significance that weighs heavily, as though each pilgrim carries not only their own burdens, but those of countless generations who have walked before them. I remember, during one of my own pilgrimages, an elderly man sharing his tale of final circuit taken in his 70s. Each step, he said, felt like an offering, as though he was pouring his very essence into the earth below Kailash. His voice trembled as he spoke, but his eyes shone with a deep peace. He, like so many others, had experienced the power of Kailash in a way that needed no summit or conquest. The mountain's gifts are subtle yet profound, rewarding not those who seek to dominate, but those who seek to understand. As night falls over Kailash, the landscape transforms. Countless stories speak of glowing lights, strange mirages, and spectral figures moving in the shadows. Some say they have seen images of God and mythical animals in the mountain's reflection on nearby lakes. Lake Mansarovar, sacred to Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Bon, lies at Kailash's base, mirroring its majesty. And many claim that gazing into its waters grants them glimpses of their past lives or visions of spiritual guides. One phenomenon that has left scientists and pilgrims alike bewildered is the rapid aging of objects in Kailash's vicinity. It's reported that travelers near the mountain, upon returning to their homes, find that certain items, clothes, mementos, or even their own hair appear inexplicably older, as if Kailash operates on a different timeline, one outside human understanding. Many believe that Kailash itself forbids ascent as a final line between mortals and the divine. Several modern climbers have stated that as they drew nearer, they felt an inner voice urging them to stop. It is as though the mountain itself places thoughts of humility into the hearts of those who approach too close. One of the most famous figures to honor this silent command was Reinhold Messner, who upon seeing Kailash acknowledged that it was not meant to be climbed. To attempt it, he said, would be sacrilege. Kailash is not just a mountain. It is a sacred place where gods reside. Messner, who had scaled Everest without oxygen and survived the most dangerous conditions on Earth, refused even to try it. In recent years, China has permitted exploration of certain nearby peaks, allowing scientific expeditions and limited pilgrimage access. But Kailash itself remains protected, whether by legal restriction, cultural reverence, or perhaps the mountain's own enigmatic powers. The climbers who might consider scaling it report experiencing vivid dreams, nightmares, and waking visions filled with warnings. They say it is as if Kailash calls to people, only to warn them to stay away, to respect the line between human ambition and the mysteries beyond. The allure of Kailash lies not in its summit, but in the mysteries it holds, a mountain that remains, against all odds, untouched by human footprints. It's as though the mountain itself keeps its secrets, whispering them to only the most devoted and humble pilgrims. Kailash is a testament to the idea that some places are meant to remain sacred, unattained by ambition or conquest, places that demand reverence and humility. For me, Kailash will forever be a reminder of the divine forces that move beyond our understanding. Growing up with the stories of the Himalaya, I have come to understand that these mountains hold answers not in their summits, but in the paths around them. As I look back, I see Kailash as a mountain that doesn't need to be climbed to reveal its power. Its strength lies in the restraint it demands and the faith it fosters. In a world that often seeks control, Kailash remains unbroken, a reminder that some mysteries are best left veiled. Returning to Kailash, even as a storyteller, is to face a place that exists beyond words. It's a peak that has watched over the world since time immemorial, inviting only those who can listen, those willing to learn from silence. In the end, Kailash stands untouched, a mountain as eternal as faith itself. Please do subscribe to the channel so we can continue the stories that matter.